up on a special edition of 21st Century. The glaciers of Bolivia, melting fast, threatened with extinction.
If the people not react now, it will be too late.
At risk, thousands of people for whom they are a source of life. Can Vietnam beat back climate change and have enough food to feed its people?
The crops are not enough to feed the family.
There are people who could help, but they are often not heard. No hiding place in the city.
Before, there weren't so many floods, but now it's so often.
Indonesia's capital, Jakarta, taking the full fury of the storm. Hello, I'm Daljit Dhaliwal. Welcome to a special edition of 21st Century, an in-depth look at the environment. The world is at a turning point. Can we reverse the harmful effects of global warming and climate change? We begin our program in South America, where many Bolivians are victims of a warming planet. High up in the Andes Mountains, a disaster is in the making. For thousands of years, the glaciers of Bolivia have been considered sacred. Their snow-peaked summits rising toward the sky, reaching toward the sun. They provide some of the world's most breathtaking scenery, and something even more precious, water, vital to the millions of people in the valleys and cities below. But all that is changing, and the consequences are devastating, says South America's leading glaciologist, Edson Ramirez.
It's very sad to find that the glaciers are actually disappearing. It's very dramatic, very, very dramatic.
To show just how dramatic the loss, he takes us here, nearly 5,300 meters high, to the summit of Bolivia's Jakarta glacier. Just a decade ago, this glacier was the highest ski run in the world. But today, this is all that is left. According to Ramirez, the snow and ice covering the glacier has shrunk a startling 90% since 1940. What's more, he warns, the pace is quickening.
In the case of Jakarta, it was melting in the last 30 years 3 times faster compared to other years before. The glacier is dead. Jakarta, it's dead.
And the scientific community fears that other glaciers around the world will share the same fate. Neighboring glaciers in the Andes are already melting at rates surprising even the experts. Many, says Ramirez, will disappear within 40 years. The key reasons: global warming due to a dangerous increase in carbon emissions. Also an increase in a climate change phenomenon known as El Niño, which causes less snowfall over the mountains, more direct sunlight and more rapid melting.
If the people not react now, in the next years it will be too late. So we don't have a lot of time.
But for the tens of thousands of people who rely on water from glacial lakes and streams for their livelihood, it may already be too late. People like 70-year-old Felicia Garcia, who lives here in Amachuma Chico, a farming community nestled in the valley of one of Bolivia's remaining glaciers.
The ice is melting because the sun is too hot. Our water is drying up. We don't have it for our fields, and at times not even to drink.
The effect on crops here and in other agricultural communities like it is enormous.
It's full of worms.
Like most of those in her village, her family's entire income came from selling their harvest. Now there's barely enough to feed them. They fear soon they will have no food left at all.
The harvest is only half of what it was before. Maybe it's the end of the world. God gave us everything. He can also take it away. The water, everything.
Already, the community that she has always known is disappearing. The men, including her elderly husband, forced to leave in search of jobs, leaving women like her alone to try to keep their farms alive, tend to whatever livestock remains, and raise their families.
Yes, we have been left alone. But what are we to do?
Felicia's neighbor, Inocencia, is raising 7 children, working up to 5 hours a day in the field since her husband left to work as a miner. With her taps now mostly dry, they are forced to find water wherever they can, no matter how difficult getting there may be, or what they find once there.
Agua sucia, bene.
Toiling alongside her are her daughters. With so many men gone, too many girls now have no option but to drop out of school. Seeing these changes have been devastating, says village leader Felix Quispe. His family worked this land for generations.
These are photos from when I was little. This little one is my niece, my mom, me. When I was a child, my only dream was to be a farmer, to have a good life here.
But that dream has died.
Here there's nothing. Totally dry. Dry. It is very sad. Many people have left. Houses are abandoned. Some don't even have roofs. This hurts me a lot. It affects me very much. Husbands only come home maybe twice a month. It would be great to live like before and not be heartbroken every day.
Felix himself has been forced to leave behind the life he loves to sell toilet paper and clean windows. He joins so many others forced to migrate here to the adjoining cities of La Paz and El Alto. But for him and the city's now nearly 2 million inhabitants, time may also be running out. Their water supply is running low.
This is the reservoir that provides water to one of the main cities in Bolivia.
With some 20% of the reservoir's water supply coming from glaciers, many climate change experts like Jose Gutierrez are very worried.
What will the world do when 2 million people will not have water for drinking?
And water is also needed to generate an estimated 90% of the city's electricity.
The world needs to know what is happening in Bolivia. We are losing something that is a human right, a source of life. Water for drinking, for food, for the animals, for electricity. They don't have future. We do not have a future.
And they will not, he says, until countries around the world agree to reduce their carbon emissions and protect those who for now are left with an uncertain future and memories of a once happy past. Later on 21st century, Indonesia's capital in danger of sinking. Next up, we travel to Vietnam, a nation whose economy is thriving after decades of war. But a new and insidious enemy is hitting this Southeast Asian country, and it is doing so with deadly force. September 2009, Typhoon Ketsana slams Vietnam. Dozens are dead and missing. Vietnam's weather has become wildly unpredictable, and scientists say they know why.
Climate change already impact Vietnam. Yeah, very strong impact to Vietnam.
Dr. Tran Tuc of Vietnam's Ministry of Natural Resources and Environment.
More typhoons with high intensity have occurred during the last few years. Every year, many people has been killed by natural disaster.
Those disasters are often caused far to the north of Vietnam, where global warming is melting glaciers. The result, rising sea levels along Vietnam's 3,500-kilometer coastline. Low-lying agricultural areas like Quang Tri province are experiencing unprecedented flooding. Everything changed here 10 years ago when a sudden flood enveloped hundreds of homes, killing 600 people.
Everything we had, the flood destroyed, the rice was destroyed, the pigs died, the ducks and the chickens died, all of them, everything we had.
50-year-old Lan Nguyen and her husband Phi are farmers. Married for 30 years, they have 2 children at home. They say climate change has transformed their lives.
We are affected because the crops are not enough to feed the family.
Today, Vietnam grows enough crops to feed its 87 million people. In fact, its abundant rice exports have earned it the title of Asia's rice basket. But if sea levels rise as much as 1 meter, 40% of the fertile Mekong Delta in the south will be underwater.
If the sea level rise, rice production in the Mekong Delta will be reduced significantly.
Another cruel fact of global warming is that lack of water also plagues farmers. In the past 50 years, Vietnam's average temperature has climbed 1/2 a degree Celsius. That seemingly small change causes big weather extremes, more floods in the rainy season and severe droughts in the dry season. Crops often don't survive.
This harvest season, sometimes the rice stalks did not open. That's because the climate is too dry.
No longer able to count on his crops, Phi leaves his home for 2 months a year to work in construction.
If I stay home, there wouldn't be any money to pay for the children to go to school or for household expenses.
Phi's long absences are hard on his wife Lan. All the chores and responsibilities fall on her shoulders.
When he's not home, for me to farm the rice field on my own is terribly difficult. I'm out working all the time.